Good afternoon, Democrats. Today is Friday, thankfully, and it's St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy Friday. And what a week it's been. This concludes my being able to sit in for Alicia this week. She'll be returning this weekend and we'll be back for her daily lives on Monday. But I just want to say a special word of thanks for those of you who tuned in this week and gave me the opportunity to visit with you a few minutes each day. It's always very special for me to have a chance just to reach out and talk to Democrats. And so thank you for that. Want to mention a couple of things from this week. I'm going to start with some very good news. A bill that was proposed by a Republican legislator in the House, HB 2424, has received great support from both sides. This is a wider distribution of Narcan, which, if you are familiar with Narcan, that is something that, if administered soon after an opioid overdose occurs, it will help to reverse the effects of the overdose and can save lives. And so I'm really happy to see this expansion into the hands of school nurses across the state, because we have a chance to prevent so many unnecessary deaths. And my hope is that this will continue to build momentum, because we were talking in the office earlier today and everyone agreed we would all carry Narcan with us, because you just never know. You can be at the grocery store, you can walk into a convenience store, you could walk into a friend's home and find someone overdosing, and you would have immediate access to something that can truly save a life. So I want to just say that we do love it when Republicans and Democrats work together for the good of Oklahoma. Instead of taking rights away, this is one that gives us not only the right, but the tool to help save lives in Oklahoma. So congratulations to everyone in support of that. Now, that was the good news. The bad news is that the Orange Menace, the former failed twice impeached president, will be at the BOK Center tomorrow for a wrestling tournament as the guest of Mark Wayne. You know the rest. And I loved it when our vice chair, Eric Proctor, said maybe Trump can finally see the BOK Center with more than 3,500 people. If you recall, a few years ago when he was in Tulsa for his big rally that was met with protesters, it was truly a wild time. And I was on the ground reporting the whole time during that event. And they had built this outdoor stage because they said there was going to be overflow, and way more people were coming than what could be held in the BOK Center. In fact, that was not true. It was a super spreader event for COVID, but thankfully there weren't that many people there to hear him talk his nonsense, so that was good. But yes, our state senator Mullen has nothing better to do than swipe at the president, our President Biden, and invite a failed president to come to Oklahoma. We don't need that here. And to all of our friends in Tulsa, Godspeed this weekend, because just being in the same town with him is a threat in and of itself. Well, we talked this week with Representative Jacob Rosecrans about this legislation that would have protected children with disabilities from being beaten by teachers and school administrators, and how that failed. We did a little investigating. Actually, we didn't. This was done by our communications director, Angela Almond. And as an aside, Angela, I want to thank you for producing the Daily Lives all this week. It's, in addition to everything else you've had going on, I do appreciate it. But she did some research and found that in the last school year, the number of children with special needs or disabilities that were the victims of corporal punishment, and we can call it corporal punishment because that sounds kind of sanitary, but let's call it what it is: beating, whooping, butt paddling, whatever you want to call it. It's not healthy for any child, and we know this. But when it's extracted upon children with disabilities, it can be particularly trauma filling and last a lifetime. And this happened 455 times during the school year last year, the last school year. That's twice a day, friends, more than twice a day that these children were beaten or paddled or hit by a teacher or a school administrator with no compunction because the law allowed it. This legislation would have stopped it, except it didn't pass. And the incredibly frustrating thing was now some of those who voted against it said, oh, well, we didn't understand. We thought we were voting against the Bible. Well, the Bible has never been up for a yay or nay vote in our state capitol. That's just nonsense. So what that tells us is that you either can't read or you didn't spend enough time trying to read and understand the legislation before you simply voted no on it. This is a PR stunt that they're using, and it's not looking good for them because if you cannot read on a sixth grade level, frankly, you have no business being a legislator because you are voting on legislation that impacts the lives of Oklahomans. And to say that you voted against it because you thought you were voting against the Bible is nonsense. The good news is that it appears that on Monday there will be another vote, and hopefully the legislators will actually have time to reread the bill and get help that they need in comprehending it. It's not difficult to understand. I've read it, and I'm no scholar, but I can tell you that it makes good sense. So that's troubling, but at least it does have another shot at being voted upon next week. Well, this has been a kind of a wild week at the Capitol, and next week is going to be very intense because they're up against a major deadline. All legislation passes from the House to the Senate and from the Senate to the House. So there will likely be late nights. And what that means for you and me as citizens of Oklahoma is that often we may not find out until 2 or 3 in the morning or later what's on the agenda for that day. And so there's very little time to prepare, to be at the Capitol, to be talking to legislators. So I would encourage you to look through what's coming up next week and make your voices heard. We've been talking about that all week, to reach out to your representatives, to your senators, and let them know your feelings about beating kids, about funding education, whatever it may be. Let them hear from you. And if you want to do that in person, next Thursday, our Federation of Oklahoma Democratic Women will be hosting their first ever legislative action day. They're asking everyone to wear blue and to join them at 8:30 on Thursday morning at the Great Seal, which is on the first floor of the Capitol. This is hosted by the Federation, along with Edmond Democratic Women, but it's not just a women's event. It's for all of us who can and have the opportunity to show up, to work with them, to elevate their concerns, which are certainly, some of those are focused on women's issues. Many of them, however, are not. They're focused on just making Oklahoma a better place to live. Well, friends, I'm going to wrap this up and say again, thank you for sharing some time with me this week. And Alicia will be back here at 4:15 on Monday, back in her regular spot, hosting her daily live broadcast. I'll be here on Monday evening at 6:30 with the Hamilton Report, and I hope to see you then. And until then, on this St. Patrick's Day weekend, enjoy yourself, be safe, and we'll see you soon.